What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. This I'm going to bring you my long-term review of this is the 16-inch M1 MacBook Pro. The M2 MacBook Pros are now out in the 14 and 16-inch, so I wanted to give a long-term review of this, kind of my user case scenario and why I don't really think anyone really should upgrade to the M2 if you already have this, or you can get it at a discount, which is pretty easy to do right now. So I've owned this for close to a year, probably about 8-9 months, which is close enough. And I paid retail for it, which is $24.99. And this actually replaced, it was actually a downgrade in cost because it replaced, I had a PC desktop, pretty mid to high end one with a 10-core Intel chip and 980 Ti. And then I had also a ThinkPad. I had a Yoga. I had one of the P2, P3, which is their 15-inch. So this is a 16-inch model, and it has been used as my desktop laptop combo. And I'll kind of go through some of the good things, as bad, give you a look around of it, and see who this may be for. This thing goes on sale pretty frequently, under $2,000 if you can buy refurbished through Apple directly, or wait for it to go on sale on Amazon, Best Buy, B&H. It goes on sale pretty frequently. So if you can get it under $2,000, do not buy the M2 MacBook Pro unless you're doing really heavy intensive stuff. So I do a lot of photo and video editing on this. I do not shoot an S-Log or a C-Log just because there's no benefit for me. It's too much grading, too much work, too much processing on the computer. So that's mainly what I use it for. Is I have this Sony a7 IV, so I use it for a lot of photo editing and video editing. Basically every video I've done recently, I've edited on this. So the first thing is the build quality. Build quality on this is still excellent. I've had zero issues with any type of wear, tear. It is kind of a little bit dirt magnet, so if you look here, it's pretty fingerprinty. I kind of wish I would have got the silver one versus the gray one, just because I think it would be a little bit better. The keyboard does get, if you can see that, probably it does get a little bit glossy, and the screen is also glossy, as you can probably see as a reflection here. So it does reflect a lot, and it just tends to pick up a lot more fingerprints and gook compared to my previous P3 or P2, I forget which one, from Lenovo, which had a matte display. So that's the only negative, I think, build quality wise, but everything else is solidly put together. I've spilt a little bit of water on the keyboard and it still works perfectly. I do have Apple Care with this, mainly because I use this in the kitchen a lot. So I use it in the kitchen, in the living room, and down here at the desktop as an actual desktop where you can just plug it in. My monitor does power delivery, 96 watts, so you basically have one cable and you are ready to go. It has a USB-C hub on it, so basically one cable, everything else is wireless, keyboard and mouse. The mouse is pretty cheap, but so you do have that. So build quality is excellent. When it comes to the actual things I like and dislike about it, the ports is a huge plus for me. It has all the ports I need, 3 USB-C, it has MagSafe, headphone jack, and SD card slot. I don't use the HDMI, but it does have HDMI. I believe the M2 has HDMI 2.1, but that's mainly for high refresh rate monitors, which I don't think is something Mac is really, or Apple is really going after there. So the ports are really nice. The whole overall keyboard, trackpad is probably class leading. The keyboard is not as nice as the ThinkPads that I've had in the past, but it is a very, very nice keyboard. I do like that it has black keyboard, even though it does get very fingerprinty, very greasy pretty easily. I use this thing daily in weird environments, in the kitchen in the morning, after we eat dinner, you know, when our toddler's playing around, painting or doing stuff, I'll have it on and mess around with it. So it does get a little bit dirty. Trackpad is top notch. I wish it had a little more click to it. It just has kind of haptic feedback, which isn't the best. So I do wish it had a little bit more click to it. But the overall keyboard, mouse, or trackpad are excellent, class leading, I would say. Besides, I like the ThinkPad keyboards a little bit better just because I think they have a little bit more travel, a little bit more tactile feel. These are still kind of, they're better than the actual Butterfly, but I still don't think, I think they could do some improvement there. So speakers are really good. The best speakers I've ever heard on a laptop. I don't think the actual treble and the actual voices are very loud. It has a lot of bass and a lot of character, but I wish that maybe you could turn up or kind of adjust a little bit. I won't talk about macOS. I think macOS and Windows are very similar in nature. I actually prefer how Windows operates, but I've learned to like macOS and not had any problems with that. The three big shining points of this thing is, one is going to be it never gets hot. The bottom of this thing never gets warm. I never hear the fans. It's completely silent. My Intel machines, and even my wife's, she has a 13-inch Intel. I think it has the i7 in it, i5, i7. This thing, the sooner you open a Chrome tab in this, it turns into a rocket ship and gets really hot, really warm. So that's something to keep in mind, is that it never ever gets warm, never gets hot. I've used it outside in 90-degree weather, no problem. This is just watching something or browsing around on the web. Not, I've done photo editing on it outside before in 90-degree weather, and it didn't have any issues. So take that for what you may be. I have the 512 gigabyte storage, but I have a server, so I don't need anything more than that. But that's really the battery life and the actual, it just stays cool, quiet. I typically only charge this once every week or two. It probably has 15 hours of battery life, which I've never had a Intel Windows laptop that has got anything over 8 or 9 hours. Supposedly the M2 gets more, but it gets very, very good battery life. It's very efficient. Usually I plug it in on Saturdays or randomly every other Saturday or Sunday, but it does not get charged very much. Massive battery, 99, almost to the max that you can put in it. So that's a huge plus. I use this thing. I don't ever usually take it out of the like on the road or to a coffee shop or anything, or to work. I have a work laptop, but that's a big plus for me. The biggest shining star here is going to be the display. So it's 120 hertz. I don't know if it's mini LED, but it is the best display I've ever seen before in just about anything. The iPad Pro that I have, the 2018, has a pretty similar screen to this, but the 120 hertz refresh rate is extremely nice, smooth. It makes I have a BenQ 32-inch 4K, pretty good color accurate monitor, and this thing just blows it out of the water. It's just so much more fluid, fast to go through. It gets almost too bright, if you ask me. I mean, it gets really, really bright to where it's probably not very safe for your eyes for it to get that bright, but it is a very, very color accurate, very pleasing display to use. So that's some of the big, if you're looking for top-notch display, 16 inches, so it is a pretty large display, excellent battery life, and awesome performance without getting hot or running loud, this is it for you. You don't need anything else. If you're just video or photo editing and it's not like S-Log or C-Log or anything that's log related, I don't see getting anything besides the 14 or 16 inch. If you can get an M1 Air and get by with that, I think you could do that too, but I like the 16 inch for the screen size. So I like to edit photos on the go, and the 14 inch was a little bit too small, and the 13 inch is definitely too small. When you compare this to my wife's screen, I'm pretty sure hers is dead. It is not, but it is just, it's a big difference in the actual screen size. So that was really the only reason I went with the 16 inch. Otherwise, I wouldn't want the Air. If they come out with a 15 inch MacBook Air that's cheaper, I'll probably get that whenever AppleCare runs out on this. And you get all your ports back. SD card is the big one for me. So a few negatives. There's not very many. For one, I paid retail for it. Do not pay retail for the M1 version. Wait till it goes on sale. Two, it just gets dirty. I mean, my ThinkPad got dirty too, but I can never keep this thing's screen clean. It just seems to get just fingerprints all over it. That's just a huge negative for me. It just seems like I'm cleaning it every 2 or 3 days. That's probably because I use it in the kitchen a lot, especially in the morning. So if I'm not using my iPad to like watch the news in the morning on YouTube TV, I will use this. Probably not what I should be doing, but I do anyways, just the microphone, because I don't know if the volume is that high. I'm not a huge fan of Mac OS. I prefer Windows. I've made it work. It works fine for me, but just a few things navigating around. The notch is kind of annoying. I don't notice it, but now that I look at it on this video that I'm doing, I notice it pretty. It takes up a little bit more real estate, and there's not anything fancy in there. The webcam is just okay. It's not anything better, I think, than like a Dell XPS 15, which has no bezel up there at the top, just a little hole for the webcam. It doesn't have Face ID. I have no idea why they have a notch up there. It doesn't make any logical sense to me, unless you have Face ID up there, which I thought that's what it was actually for, but I've got used to it. It's not a deal breaker. The only other negative is that you can't really work on these. These are not something you take apart and mess around with, and they're very expensive to repair. So if you are using it in the kitchen all the time like me, I would just do Apple Care, and if it breaks, you don't have to pay a fortune for it. So that's really it. It's kind of big compared to a 13-inch. My wife has a goofy protector on hers, so but it is a pretty big computer. But if you look at it compared to my 15-inch HP work computer, which is a business class HP laptop, it's actually pretty small. It's actually smaller than that. So I'll get a picture of that up. So it is large, but it's not as large as some of the Windows equivalent. My HP laptop from work is probably 5 years old, so there's probably better designed ones out there. And business class laptops don't really care about size when it comes to that. But overall, I've been very happy with it. I'm glad that I switched over to Mac OS just for that I have one computer for everything. I have Apple Care, so it's covered if I break it or accidentally spill something on it like I did. I'm covered on that end. If you can get by with the M2 or M1 Air, I would highly recommend going that route. Don't spend the money. If you don't need the 16-inch screen and you don't care about the 120 hertz, color accurate, very vibrant screen, get an Air, get something different. If you just need a desktop and you don't really care about this at all, the new MacBook Mini, the M2 version of that is awesome. Or if you get something like the Apple Studio that's been running at, or the Mac Studio, whatever they call it, it's been running $17.99 refurbished straight from Apple, which would be another very good deal over this if you just need a desktop. But if you're using it as both, I think this highly works. It does a really good job. And that's it. I've been very happy with it. I will keep this thing till Apple Care runs out. I think I got 2 more years left. Then I will sell it and get something different. And that's it. I've been really happy with it. If you have any comments, questions, leave them below and I'll get back to you. And hope you have a good rest of the day, weekend, and whatever it is out there. And I'll see you guys next time.